So I've already got my foundation on because I'm currently filming a Nip and Fab Foundation Friday. If you don't know, I do upload a Foundation Friday every Friday, hence the name, where I basically put a foundation to the test. And that happens every single month, regardless whether it's vlogust or just normal. So yeah, please go check it out. If it is already up on my channel, I'll leave it linked down below. And I'll also leave the link below for my playlist for my Foundation Fridays too, in case any of the ones that you want to check out. Anyways. So I'm going to put some concealer on to begin with. This is the Revolution Conceal and Define Infinite Longwear Concealer. Just looks like this. I absolutely love this concealer. I've got mine in the shade C0.05 and it is actually better than the original. 100% better than the original. So I'd highly recommend it if you haven't tested it out, or if you were like me and you just weren't really that bothered about the original, you weren't really that fond of it. Try this, because I just got it just to see what it was like. I didn't expect to like it, and it is literally like my go-to concealer, my everyday concealer, because I love it that much. So before we actually get into the questions, I think it's only right for me to actually explain what my job role is and kind of my past and history, like career-wise, just so you know like what kind of led me up to today. And what kind of qualifications I have and all that palaver, because I know there's quite a lot of you that would be new to my channel, so I just thought it's probably best to explain what I do before I start answering questions about it, if that makes sense. So to set that concealer in place, I'm going to be taking my little tiny sample of the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder, and this is in the shade Fair. Just looks like this. You can get this on the Feel Unique's beauty kit, so you can get this with other samples that you can choose from on the website, and it comes to about £15. I'll leave my videos linked down below if you want to see what I'm talking about. And they also have a cheaper kind of sample one, where it's more like kind of sachets and smaller samples, which also have Charlotte Tilbury in there as well, like foundation samples and stuff. And that's like £3 odd, and you get your money back in a voucher, so I'll leave that link down below if you do want to check it out. I'm going to go in with this oldie but a goodie. This is the Revolution The One Contour Stick. I don't know if they do this anymore, but as you can tell by like the tiny stub that I have left, I used to absolutely love this. And because I haven't set all my face with powder, I'm still obviously going to be able to go in with a bit of a cream product. And then I'm literally just going to take a duo fibre stippling brush to blend this in. It's really easy to blend in, like there's literally no work to it. So I always knew from a young age, really, because I did a GCSE in sociology, so I always knew from a young age that I was interested in kind of working with people and kind of that side of stuff. I always knew that I just wanted to help people. That was always my goal. I want to be able to help somebody. I'm a rescuer. It's part of my nature. That's what I do. I like to help people. It's just part of me. I feel like it's part of my mum, and she passed it on to me. I was always that person that people would come to for advice, or people would just openly talk to, etc. And I liked that. I liked being that person for people to be able to come to, not necessarily for me to give advice, just for me to listen. And I always just thought I want to help people. Don't know what I want to do with my life, but I want to help people. So obviously I did my A-levels. I actually didn't do too well. Actually, out of all my A-levels, my psychology one was the one that I got the worst grade in. I had really bad time with my teacher. I hated him. He hated me. Actually, no, I didn't hate him. He hated me. And then I just obviously didn't like him back because of it. So my actual A-level in psychology, I got a D. It was my worst grade out of all of my A-levels, and I just didn't enjoy it. We didn't really have a teacher. When we did, they left, and then we had another teacher, and then he didn't like me, and it was just a nightmare. Anyways, so then from that, I knew that regardless of that, I still wanted to do psychology. That's what I wanted to do. So I got into Teesside University, which is where I live. So it's just a local university, and I went and did my degree in psychology. So I just did single honours psychology. You can do psychology and counselling. You can do psychology and forensics. I'm guessing there probably is more options now than what there used to be. But I just did single honours psychology, so it was just straight up psychology. On the plus side to that, if you are and ahhing whether you want to do counselling psychology, whether you want to do forensic psychology, or just psychology in general, typically, I mean, I know it definitely is the case for Teesside University, typically it means that when you do the single honours psychology, you get a choice of modules at some point, and that's when you can then overlap to the forensic side, and you can overlap to the counselling side. Whereas the counselling and psychology students, when it came to the extra modules, they didn't really get a choice because them extra modules were the counselling specified ones or the forensic specified ones. So maybe that might be helpful to look into if you are looking at going to university and you're wondering which route to go down. Have a look to see what the general just psychology course offers and whether you will get a selection of modules, because that might help you to sway you and be able to decide whether you want just a single psychology course and then pick your modules, or whether you just specifically want counselling in psychology and specifically want forensic in psychology, if that makes sense. So in my degree, because I got to pick the modules, I ended up I did a women in crime module, which was really interesting, and that was obviously with the forensic psychology teachers, and obviously it overlapped with some forensic psychologists as well on like the course. So that was really interesting, and it gave me the chance to pick that as well. And I could have picked the counselling one, which, to be fair, looking back, it was probably would have been more fitting to the job role that I'm in now, and more so to like the route that I wanted to go down, because I always knew that it'd be mental health and therapy would be what I was interested in. However, I was one of them people that would look to see what the assessment was for the modules, and if there was any kind of role play, any kind of presentation, no matter how interested I was in the module, it got cut. My social anxiety was not having that. So anything that had role play, which probably would have been the counselling ones and presentations, got cut. And I really enjoyed doing the women in crime one. I thought that was such an interesting module. So maybe look into that if that's something that you kind of and ahh in between. I'm also going to go in with the Fenty cream bronzer just because I bloody love it. This is in the Macchiato 03 shade. It's such a nightmare to open though. There we go. It just looks like this, and I'm literally going to be going in with a Real Techniques dual fibre face brush for this. So obviously that was my degree. From that I went straight into my master's from finishing my degree, and my master's was in health psychology and clinical skills. So really we didn't actually learn anything at all about mental health on that master's. It was more to do with health psychology, and when I think back to it, I don't really know what I learned all that much on that master's. I think if you wanted to be a health psychologist, obviously that is like the master's to go for, because it'll help you to get to the next step. But I think if you're wanting to do a similar route to me, there's definitely better masters to do. I just don't think I was ready to leave uni yet. I didn't know what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go next. And all my friends were doing the masters. Well, actually, one of my friends, Priya, was, and she kind of like sold it to the rest of us, and we all ended up just doing a masters together. So it was really good because we had all the friendship group, and it was a really good support system. And it does make you stand out. It's not a necessity, like it's an extra bonus, but it's not a necessity to have to do a master's to work in therapy. So I won't worry about it if you're not really that bothered. And I definitely wouldn't do a health psychology one if you are wanting to go into therapy, because it's got nothing to do with it at all. So I'm going to put some more bronzer on because clearly I haven't got enough on. This is the MAC Dark Tan Minimised Skin Finish Bronzer, which just looks like this. This has probably been my favourite bronzer in the whole wide world. I absolutely love it. And I'm just going to be taking a Technique, I think this is a blusher brush, I think. But to be honest with you, I normally really gravitate towards these big blusher brushes for my bronzer because I do the same with the Real Techniques one. But anyways, back to my story. So just to give you a bit of a time span on this, obviously I was at college for 2 years, my degree took 3 years, and my master's was only a year, so it wasn't too long of a course. And whilst I was doing my degree to the end of it and to my master's, I'd worked through like obviously different makeup counter jobs, which you'll be aware of if you've like been following my channel for a while. I worked for like Benefit, I worked for Galan for a short period of time, and then I worked as a support worker for like a service who provided support for people who had brain injuries. So that was kind of a lot of like of personal care, night shifts. There was one person that I particularly worked with quite closely, and I did like night shifts at his house like every Friday, like 12-hour night shifts where you had to like stay awake. And And I do feel like that helped to get me my first... I do think that helped me to get me my first job outside of uni, because as soon as I came out of my masters, I got a job working for Mind. I'm just going to pop some blush on whilst I talk, and I'm going to take a mixture of MAC. I feel like I've got a lot of MAC in this video, unintentionally. But I'm going to get some of the MAC Melba matte blush, but I do want just a little bit of sparkle. So I'm going to mix it a bit with the Milani Luminoso Baked Powder Blush, like this. And you can probably tell... Oh, that's just the brush. I thought the full thing broke then. You can probably tell that they are quite similar colours. I do feel like the Luminoso doesn't really give you much colour, so the MAC will give you a bit of colour and the Luminoso will give you a bit of sparkle. So my first job out of my masters, and kind of my first job that kind of got me onto like the career path that I'm on now, was working for Mind, and I was basically helping to support people who cared for somebody else with a mental health diagnosis or mental health struggles. And I do think that working as a carer and like a support worker helped to get me that role, because I could kind of relate to an extent, I could relate to what it was like working as a carer and being a carer for somebody else, and kind of like the 24-hour care that is needed for that as well. So I worked there for a short period of time, actually, maybe like half a year maximum. Unfortunately, the work, like the the contract lost its funding, didn't get funded for the next year. So then I had to get another job, and luckily I got a job in Mind again, but working for the children's service. So this job was more so helping children who were struggling with their mental health, and working in schools. So I used to go to certain schools and do like 6-week interventions with children. Before I applied and got that job, I applied for another job in a drug service, and unfortunately didn't get through to the next round. But when I was working for the children's service, they got back in touch with me and said that they got more funding, and basically offered me a full-time role with them. So obviously at the time I was working for the children's service, I was enjoying my job, but I wanted to work full-time. I was working 4 days, and I just felt like I wanted a new challenge. So I started working for the drug service and left the children's service. I'm going to go in with the Anastasia Beverly Hills Amrezy highlighter. I've been really getting into this recently. And I'm just taking the Morphe M501 brush. So that's when I started working for the drug service. My only agreement was that if I started working for the drug service, that I had to have the time to be able to finish the interventions that I'd just started with the kids. Because obviously I'd just got introduced myself to them, introduced myself to the parents, and I didn't want to mess the kids about, especially like one of the children that I had was like 5, and I just didn't want to confuse them. So I finished my interventions with the kids and then went across to the drug service. So I worked for the drug service for just over a year. Yeah, I think it was like a year and 3 months. And then in that time span, I was obviously helping people who were had substance misuse addictions and alcohol addictions, and prescribing medication for it. I was like doing prescriptions. I was working closely with doctors and nurses, and it was really good experience. It really opened my eyes to quite a lot of stuff that I was never exposed to when I worked at Mind, like social services, going to meetings, kind of stuff like that, and doing reports. So I got a lot of experience from working at the drug service. We also did like needle exchange, so I got kind of trained up on that. I got trained up on how to give naloxone, which is like a pen to give to somebody when they're overdosing. It opened up so many experiences, and I'll always be thankful for working at the drug service because I learned so much from it. But then it got to the point when I was like, right, okay, it's time to go back into mental health. This was always just a stepping stone. I wanted to get quite a lot of experience under my belt before I started going back, before I basically applied for the job that I'm doing now. I didn't feel like I was ready for it. So I got my experience. Obviously, I worked with the carers, I worked with the children, then I worked with drug and alcohol. And I decided, right, okay, it's now time to apply to go back into mental health and apply for the job that was always the one that I was always going to go back to, if that makes sense, which is the job that I'm in now. So I'm currently working as a psychological wellbeing practitioner. I'm currently training up. So basically, I can do a full video on this if you want, because I feel like there's so much to talk about with all the job roles that I've had, but especially with this one. So you basically get the uni course paid for you, where you get trained up in low intensity cognitive behavioural therapy to help people with mild to moderate anxiety and depression. So that's basically it. in a nutshell. But now that I've blabbered on, because I've realised that it's been quite a long time, I'm going to go straight into your questions and answer them for you. So if you don't really check on this part of my YouTube, basically in my YouTube channel there's a little tab called Community. I don't know if that's going to show up on there at all. Yes, it's like the little community tab at the top. I put loads of things in here. I share all my latest videos, I ask you for questions, I put polls on there for you to vote what videos you want me to film and all that good stuff. So make sure you check on that community tab, or change it so when you see like your subscriptions it says videos and posts, so that you can have your little say and pick what videos you want me to do. Anyways, I asked you on here for some questions about my career in psychology, and all that kind of stuff. So, first question from XOXO Gossip Girl is, what do you enjoy most about it? So at the moment, because obviously I am training up, I haven't been trained up in the therapy part of it yet. It's something that we're going to get taught in September. It would have already been taught and I would have already been working and doing therapy with clients by now if it wasn't for lockdown, but because of lockdown they've had to change the module around at uni, so we've done module 3 first instead of module 2, and basically I haven't been taught the therapies yet. So the bit that I'm going to enjoy the most is going to be getting taught the therapies and actually starting to do some work with clients. At the moment I do kind of the assessment, so when somebody first comes into the service I do an assessment with them and go through what kind of brought them to the service, what they want some support with, and to see what kind of therapy it is that they're interested in, and then basically get them booked in with the right person. So I'm looking forward to starting the therapy and actually helping somebody with the progression of it instead of kind of doing the assessment and then passing them on to the right person. I'm looking forward to being that right person, if that makes sense, for somebody to pass it on to me as well. I hope that makes sense. Joe Yorkie put, are you enjoying it and what types of therapy do you provide? So I'm just going to do my brows while I answer this one. I'm going to put on some of the Anastasia Beverly Hills Dip Brow Gel in medium brown. So I am really enjoying it. I do think it would be a lot better, obviously, if it wasn't for lockdown. We're all working from home. We've done uni from home. I think when it comes to our new module in September, October time, I think we're going to be doing the exam at home as well. So I wish that obviously it hadn't happened the way that it has with lockdown, but it's just one of them things. There's bigger things going on in the world, clearly, for me to be mourning about it, but obviously that is just what's happened. And in regards to what types of therapy that I'm going to be providing / getting trained up in, it's low intensity cognitive behavioural therapy. So yeah, have a little Google, see what that is. If you want me to do a full video explaining stuff in a bit more detail, please let me know, because I am wary that this video is like long as it is. Or if you've got any other questions, I'd be happy to do a part 2, because I feel like there's so much that I can talk about. So yeah, leave some questions down below if you have got any, and I'd be more than happy to answer them for you as well. So Lydia has asked, what qualifications did you need to study? I think you definitely need, no, I don't think you do need a degree, actually. I don't think you need a degree, because I know there's some people on the course that don't have a degree. So I definitely don't think you need a degree. I think it would be more helpful and it'd be easier, and you'd be more, what's the word? Oh, that's not the word. I was going to say attractive, but you'd be more, it would increase your likelihood of getting a job interview and potentially maybe getting the job. I'm not entirely sure, but there are people that are on my uni course that don't have degrees, so it's not something that you necessarily need. But I do think it would be beneficial, and I think it's just nice to have that uni experience, but it's whether it's for you. Because if it's not for you, then don't do it. We have another question from XOXO Gossip Girl. What inspired you the most about becoming a therapist? If you are aware of my mental health, and I've got quite a few videos on my channel about my own mental health, basically it's something that I've struggled with from such a young age as well. And it's just something that I've always been interested in. Mental health has just always been my thing. I don't know why. It's something that runs quite strongly in my family as well, on my mum's side and also on my dad's side. So it's just something that I've always kind of been aware of and always just been interested in. And I think the brain is fascinating. I think the human mind is just amazing as well. It's like anything like that just fascinates me anyway. So yeah, that was, and obviously I had therapy last year, had counselling last year, and found it really, really beneficial. So yeah, I think it's just always been something that's just been a part of me. That makes sense. So I'm just going to take some eyelash curlers and put on some Benefit Bad Girl Bang, whilst also answering Mia Walker's question. So Mia has asked, would you ever do video lessons or revision for the anatomy and physiology of beauty therapy? To be honest with you, no, because it's not, I don't have a clue about it. I've never studied beauty. I've never studied any kind of stuff like that. So I won't even know where to start, never mind being able to teach somebody else. I think for some people, I think they think that this is my full-time job, but it's not. And it's also not necessarily my career. It's a hobby. It's something that I just really enjoy doing. So yeah, definitely wouldn't teach you because I have no idea. So Sam has asked, what made you choose the type of psychology that you went into? Were you not interested in criminal psychology? So obviously I know I've touched on this a little bit when I've explained kind of the single psychology degree and obviously being able to pick modules and stuff, and obviously I did the woman in crime module and found that absolutely fascinating. There was a lot of stuff like on the Yorkshire Ripper, and my teacher for it was just amazing. I find work like, if it's a more I don't know the word, if it's more like a sociology thing, or like history or something, I do find it interesting, but I'm just not very good at writing up the answers, if that makes sense. Same for psychology, really. If it's like a big open essay, I'm like, but I'd obviously just try my best. But I was interested in like criminal psychology so much. I was actually really interested, and it's something that still fascinates me now, in kind of forensics in general. So kind of like working up a crime scene, kind of fingerprinting, all that kind of stuff fascinates me. But it was just never something that I thought would ever become a career. It never seemed realistic to me. I always heard people saying like, oh, there's no jobs in forensics and blah blah blah. So it's something that does interest me, but mental health and psychology and just helping people definitely interested me more for a career path. But I love like watching like true crime videos. I love Bailey Sarian. I love Eleanor. So yeah, I love kind of true crime stuff and forensics and all that kind of stuff, but mental health and counselling, CBT, that kind of stuff is like more, talking therapies is more my thing, if that makes sense. So the last question that has been asked is, what's your career right now? So obviously I know I have obviously mentioned this, but just again, just to let you know that obviously because you've asked this question and obviously I'm filming the video so that you didn't have the answer. I obviously currently am training as, oh my god, I just poked my eye, as a psychological wellbeing practitioner, which like I said is basically helping people with mild with mild to moderate anxiety and depression, and getting trained up basically in cognitive behavioural therapy. I'll give you a little bit of a brief explanation of what that is. So it's basically looking at how your thoughts, your feelings and your behaviour all link together on a cycle, and it's looking at changing it from a negative cycle to a positive cycle by looking at some coping strategies. They basically say it's like a personal trainer for your mind, so the therapist will provide you the tools to help to improve the quality of your life. You can tell that I say this every single day, can't you? When asking clients and explaining it to clients to make sure that they definitely want to go ahead with that or counselling. So yeah, it is basically like a personal trainer for your mind. So they'll give you the tools to help to improve the quality of your life by putting like coping strategies in place. It'll help to increase that mood, help to reduce the anxiety, and help to just basically look at ways of dealing with it. It's not necessarily a magic tool to take it away and fix all your problems in a magic wand. I wish it was that, because it'd be so much easier and even more rewarding than what I think it's going to be when I do start working with clients for therapy. But yeah, that's what it basically is. So I've just finished my lips off camera. I don't know how I feel about this lip combination, but I'm going to tell you what it is anyway. So I started off with the Barry M lip liner in the shade Chocolate. I then went in with the Doll Beauty Formo lipstick, which just looks like this. Beautiful. And then I also just topped it off with a little bit of the Winksy Lux Disco Gloss, which actually goes on, like, it adapts to your lip colour or something, like it adapts to the pigment of your skin, and it goes on like your perfect pinky shade, like specialised for you. So I feel like it kind of tied it just a little bit more pinky. But yeah, let me know what you think, because it's quite dramatic. But I think because I've got no eye makeup on, it works out alright. So this is the finished look. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you've got any questions from like what I've talked about, or do you feel like I've not explained something properly, or you want me to go in a bit more detail about something, please put them down below in the comments, and I'll be happily would do like a part 2 for this if it's something that you're interested in. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. I'll hopefully see you tomorrow for a brand new video of it being Vlogust. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye guys.